Hello, welcome to Box Sport. Today we are doing an interview with Erik Granström, who wrote the background a lot for Forbidden Lands, and it's a real treat. So we're going to pick his brains a little bit about Forbidden Lands and the world it inhabits, and how he came up with some of the ideas. Hi, Erik. How are you? How are you
Hi,
doing?
I'm fine over here in Sweden.
It's strange times. These are very strange
Indeed
times.
they are, but you're getting used to it now.
Yeah, it's I was looking at Forbidden Lands, just having a sort of browse through again. It's a fascinating world. Tell us a bit about it. Tell us a bit about what how you came up with the idea for this setting,
Yeah.
or
The thing, I don't know if you know this, but it was actually stretch goals to another Kickstart campaign where role-playing games were pretty big in Sweden, very big in Sweden in the 80s and 90s. And I was writing games at the time. And there was this artist called Nils Gulliksson who made a lot of art that people sort of still that's what they think of when they think RPGs. It's very nostalgic to a lot of people in Sweden. So they made an art book with his art. And one of the stretch goals for this art book was to make a new game from his old art.
oh wow,
Yeah, and that was financed. So a couple of years later, they contacted me as being an old ancient man as well as
yeah,
Nils, and they asked me if I wanted to do this. So I said sure. So I got some specifications. So those were here is all Nils Gulliksson's art from the old games, which I was familiar with those, because I played those games and I wrote for them as well. So I got all these, pictures of orcs and elves and dwarfs, etc. And they said you can do whatever you want with them. It's supposed to be a retro game, but with a modern rules, of course, from Free League.
mm,
So I thought, okay, so what can I do with this? I don't want to do it the way everybody expects, and I didn't want to use the old Tolkien-esque things. They're
yeah,
not bad, but I mean they're done already.
yeah,
So I was thinking, for instance, about elves. Okay, we have here a kin of elves that are immortal. So what would immortal beings be like? Well, I thought, first they would not care about anybody else because they would think, you are just rotting meat from when you're born. So why would we care about you at all? You're dead in 200 years,
yeah,
in a mere 200 years.
yeah, yeah,
So I thought, okay, that's their attitude. If somebody goes to war against them, they say, okay, we'll just back off for 200 years and it's all gone anyway.
yeah,
We don't want to soil our hands. And, I sort of worked that way. So I thought, okay, with halflings, I never really liked the jolly halflings because they're just too nice. Has to be something fishy going on here. So I came up with something fishy.
yeah, yeah. The
So
halflings are kind of awesome in
yeah.
it.
So I had a mission already from start. This is what you're supposed to do, and it was supposed to be gritty, and there was some other specifications, but I got free hands basically. So
It's an interesting world because we had a chat earlier on. I was just saying that it feels like a ground. There's a real depth to it. It's like, for instance, with the gods, there's such a central part of it, but they're not predictable. They're certainly central in the way people think, but it's not. It isn't like, oh, there's this one and he's like that. You don't see them coming in the same way that you. It doesn't feel like a stereotypical set of or pantheon that you would get in some games. There's some ones that just catch you unawares almost. There's just twists to them, which I really like that actually.
yeah, I think the thing there is to when you build a world, and I've done this for several years now, so I sort of learned what works, and that is never really tell what the truth. Always say, well, this is what they claim in that city, but on the other hand, this is what they claim in that city, and
Yeah,
let everybody guess. The good thing about this is first you get some kind of depth, and you get some you have some room to maneuver as a constructor. Like you can pick something up and expand on it when you need it. And you can sort of see hooks. Okay, so I can use that and that and that and put something new together from that. And that hopefully then the players and game masters will get the impression that this is kind of endless. We will never get to the bottom of this, which is true. And that doesn't mean that I know everything either, because I wanna surprise myself. That's the way
yeah.
to do good things.
Yeah, I love the fact that it kind of that reality about it that it might be this, but it might not be that. It might be this over here. Um, and that's a really interesting thing because a lot of the time you kind of look at worlds and you think it's all got to be set in stone, but the real world doesn't work like that.
No,
So
no, no.
it
And
makes
the thing is, in our real world, if even if facts are given, these five things happened, well, we're explaining them like this now. In 50 years, people will explain the same five facts in another way. And that's so. So what I do, I don't try to back, So once people believe something, it shouldn't be no, 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 you're wrong. It's like this. It should be like, okay, that is, sort of true, but this is another perspective on the same thing. So
yeah.
that's the way I try to do it, which is pretty much how history works in our world.
How my memory works. I've discovered this. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Because I think of things and I go, yeah, 20 years ago I'd written down somewhere this is what happened, but my memory of it tells a story and
yeah,
it's moved it towards the story. And I guess that's kind of what happens in this. It's like this story helps us to suit where we want to be. Which is another thing that it really I love about Forbidden Lands is that story has a place in it. It's not just you're telling a story. It's stories actually feel as if they're important to the world of the game, which is really enriching in the whole thing. And everybody seems to have different stories. Everybody seems to have the different way of see. Like I'm starting to figure out why now because I haven't chatted to you, but they have this different way of seeing it, and the stories they tell are slightly different about even the same thing.
yeah.
So that's quite deliberate. That's
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
deliberate.
it's very deliberate, and also, what I try to avoid is beings that are good or bad and just do things because they are this way and that. I try to give every person and indeed being to have their own incentives and think basically they think they are justified in what they're doing and thinking. So if I try to kill you and eat your hands or whatever, I have a reason for doing that. It's not because I'm evil. It's because I'm
Mhm.
hungry and I like hands or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So if you sort of respect your every creation, every being you make, I should try to explain. Well, how does he think or she thinks, and then it sort of gives itself often. That's why I find it. So,
One of the aspects I really like as a GM about the game is the adventure sites. I think it just makes it that little bit. It's not even easier. It just means that I've got somewhere to start sometimes whenever I'm trying to think of how to play the game. And I know you're involved in writing many of those.
yeah,
Again, they feel like that little contained sort of story nugget.
yeah.
How did you come up with the ideas for those? What was going on in your head? Was that something or was that something that was given to you in the brief? Was that something that you guys came up with?
It was actually given as a part of the instruction to me, and the problem and challenge was that the format was very short. I was supposed to keep it within this number of pages, and at the same time you want complexity. So as you say, I try to put hooks in there that I don't explain. And some players have said, I want to know more about this. Yeah, we only have this much text, so I could have left this stuff out instead and explain what you want to know. But I thought it was better to put a lot of hooks and ideas in there, and then you can expand on them. So it's a very dense form, but very rich in content, I think. So,
And it's great having that, having enough to work with, but
yeah,
having enough room to be able to make it what your players need because you know your own party quite well. So sometimes having that little bit of wiggle room can make it, and actually
yeah. And
it's
also, among the specifications were that there was not supposed to be one solution to any adventure site. You have to be able to solve them in different ways. You have to be able to solve them, violently, or by negotiating, or by being smart or diplomatic or whatever. So I really was trying to think in challenges, and this is a bad situation here at this adventure site, and I would think of it. This is the way I would solve it, but I have to leave open a lot of ways to solve it. So there are always different ways to go about things in these adventure sites. That was challenge too. So yeah,
it's a really nice little, I don't know, it's a really nice little tactic because it gives it that sort of sense of. I love the fact that on the game, and I know I know that primarily you're a background guy and the story guy. So, but I love the fact that you have this sense of writing a story as a party, of putting things down on the map, and that now is the map changed, and you solved this adventure site, and there was this story there, and that sense of story weaves all the way through the game, which is great. Like you're writing a myth yourself in this world of myths, which is really is fantastic.
It's the same thing. I write novels too, and in a novel, I can decide the story and write something. Of course, the reader will interpret it, but the challenge for games is that I'm not writing the story. I'm just sort of giving the hints.
Yeah,
and I have to write something that can be different stories. So there were other specifications, for instance, that you should be able to side with each of these powerful people you meet.
Right.
Good ones or the bad ones or the whatever ones. And also you should be able to play this adventure site in any order. So it was kind of challenging,
That's going to be hard.
I think it's doable.
Yeah. But I suppose as a writer, that's actually quite stimulating, actually having a challenge like that.
What you want is you want restrictions. Then you're most creative. If you have a white paper, you can do whatever you like. It's kind of okay. I don't know what to do, but if you get some specifications, that gets your mind going. Actually,
I know that you write quite a lot. You write a lot of fantasy, and we've chatted it before and reading a bit as well. I know that you've got a real interest in history. So, history inspires you, and philosophy inspires you. That comes all the way. I think that comes through in the book, in the way things are written. I think there's a real sort of depth and thought about it.
And like history, I mean, our own history is not any story about history is sort of put together by facts. There is no story from start. So you have this happens, and now we're trying to explain it. And people will explain it differently depending on who they are, and times will change, and you will explain it differently again. And this is what I try to do with the game as well. So you can explain it in different ways. So there will be major twists. I'm writing an expansion now in the country west of Raymondland called Asseline, and there will be some major twists even to the basic things there.
Oh,
yeah.
See, I was gonna ask, what is there anything else coming? Because I'm starting. It's one of those things where you go, ooh.
Yeah. I'm kind of. I have the basic material pretty much ready now. So, Free League will go over it, and then we'll probably. It might be Kickstarter, I don't know. But if there's a Kickstarter, we might add stuff, to it. But I have the sort of core of it now ready almost. So I hope people will find it interesting. I do.
Yeah, I mean, but that's half the battle. I think that's the thing. If something interests a writer, it comes across, and you tend to. I've noticed that you can tell whenever a writer's fed up of world. you can tell because it kind of feels like they just get it through, and it stops. But whenever you're interested in it, it sort of gets a life of its own. It gets going, and it gets a real excitement and depth to it.
And the thing is, I like this setting so much now that I'm actually starting to write some novels in it as well.
Oh wow, that's cool.
I'll just complete this expansion now, and after that, I have already an idea about a novel that I've tried. I started on it already, so
that's really exciting. Is it going to be in English? That's what we want to know.
I will. The thing I think I'll write it in Swedish because that's what I know how to do.
Yeah,
and then I have. There's a good hope that it will translate it into English pretty soon because that's the way we do with the game. So I write it in Swedish, somebody else translates it into English. So, and I come up with ideas for names and stuff in English. But I'm not literary in English. I mean, I can speak English, but I can't write, literary stuff in English.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you think in and what you.
Yeah, so I hopefully it will be in English pretty soon too. I have to write it first though.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's really good because I have to admit, I sort of was going, I wonder if I can read some stuff.
All right.
But that's cool. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I genuinely mean that. I've really enjoyed the chat today. It's been great. And laughed a lot. I'm sorry we didn't record the earlier bit because it was really good fun. But it's been a real pleasure, and I wish you all the best. Hope everything goes swimmingly over the next couple of months, and hopefully lockdown comes out quick for you guys and comes out quick for us guys as well. But in the meantime, thank you so much for writing such a fantastic world.
Okay, thanks, guys.
It's been such a pleasure to get to know it. And it's brilliant. I love the fact that I don't really know what's going on, and the bit I'm taking away is I don't know that you know everything that's going on in the background either.
But you can always find a solution. That's the thing. There's always a way.
That's it. But that's I love that. It makes it a real world. I love the fact that it's that there's solutions, but the nature of what the reality is something that we are all exploring together. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like in the real world. I mean, history doesn't stop; it goes on.
Yeah, it's great. Absolutely great. Thank you so much for your time, and you take care. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.